Our next guest says after his big win in Florida, they simply cannot stop him. Joining us right now is former presidential candidate and former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's always good to be back with you.
So is that the case? He's unstoppable right now, and what are your takeaways from last night?
Well, I mean, barring a major mistake by Trump himself, he's pretty close to unstoppable. You know, his victory arc is 8,200 miles from Miami to the northern Marianas Islands, Saipan, and others. I mean, it's a remarkable achievement that he picked up 9 delegates to 0 in the northern Marianas. He picked up 99 delegates to 0 in Florida. He won North Carolina. He won Illinois. He's basically tied but slightly ahead in the latest count in Missouri. But in delegates, he's ahead 29-5 in Missouri. And the only place he really lost was to John Kasich in Kasich's home state, which is an honorable thing. Kasich's a remarkably popular governor, about 80% approval. He carried 86 out of 88 counties in his reelection, and I think has made the case that he is probably the ideal vice presidential nominee because no Republican has ever won the presidency without Ohio. So Trump clearly is in the commanding role. Cruz can and should fight on. I think it was smart of Rubio to suspend his campaign but not release his delegates. That gives him a pretty big block. If it really does come down to a negotiated final solution, Rubio will be in the room negotiating, as will Kasich. But I think it's ironic that we're now down to Ted Cruz, a clear outsider, and Donald Trump, an even clearer outsider, as the two choices.
What about this exit poll data? In 4 of the 5 states last night, 40% of Republican voters said they would seriously consider voting for a third-party candidate if Trump and Hillary are the party picks.
Well, look, I think Trump is going to have to communicate to a broader audience, and I think he probably will. I mean, this is a guy who, starting June 16th, has led every poll. He has done a remarkable job of getting a nomination. Nobody, none of the establishment in June thought he had a prayer. He now clearly has far more than a prayer. He's going to have to think about a general election, which is a bigger, broader issue, and he's going to have to think about reassuring people who may have been put off by his rhetoric or put off just by the fact that he's so new. That he is a genuine outsider. You know, we haven't seen somebody who's this completely an outsider since Abraham Lincoln in 1860 came from nowhere as a one-time congressman and won the Republican nomination. This is an extraordinary achievement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you expecting Jeb Bush to endorse Ted Cruz? I mean, now, if the gloves weren't off before last night, they are really off now, right? So if you're going to endorse, you got to do it soon to get behind Ted Cruz. Are you expecting that?
Yeah. No, look, I suspect everybody who wants to represent a last stand against Trump should get on Cruz's bandwagon. I think he makes an effective case. I love John Kasich. He's like a younger brother. We did a lot of great things like balancing the federal budget together. But the fact is, Cruz is the only nationwide candidate who has a plausible chance of stopping Trump. And I think anybody who wants to stop Trump, Cruz is their only realistic alternative. And these people who are meeting apparently in Washington to talk about an independent third-party candidate, that ought to just be called the Elect Hillary team. The fact is, this is going to get down to be a 2-person race, and Cruz is the legitimate alternative to Trump.
Yeah.
But, hey, but Newt, if these establishment figures, people hate the establishment. If they get behind Ted Cruz, does he even want them? I'd be like, you keep your endorsement. You just go down to Turks and Caicos until December.
Look, I think Romney, for example, doing robocalls for Rubio probably hurt Rubio. I have friends in Florida who told me that it hurt Rubio.
Wow.
People don't want people are in rebellion against the very people who want to now pile on. If I were Cruz, I'd be a little bit cautious about how eagerly I want to embrace people who are the reason the rebellion started.
Yeah, here's Mark Serrano, Newt.
You know, Newt, one thing you taught Republicans in the 2012 race was how to turn the tables on the news media. No one's done it so well as Donald Trump. It's the reason why, even from the Chicago event Friday night, he was able to command the news media all weekend long. You know, Ted Cruz would have to compete with that, in order to change the dynamics, and I don't see Hillary Clinton able to compete with that in the fall. Do you agree?
Yeah, listen, I watched Cruz last night. I watched Trump rather last night. I couldn't help but break up laughing. Here's this guy who's just won, as I said, in an 8,200-mile arc, and he goes off on watching negative commercials about himself while standing at the golf tournament. And he is a great entertainer. People, nobody in Washington has really slowed down enough to stop and look at why is he doing so well.
Yeah.
He is a great entertainer. He is fully prepared to engage the audience. Last night we got the new refurbished Donald Trump, the happy entertainer, glad to speak well of Marco Rubio, ready to unite the party. Watch, he'll go right back to dominating the news media again. And I agree with you. I think Hillary's going to have an extraordinarily hard time competing with him, and I think people are going to be very shocked by what a Trump general election would be like, because it'll be unlike, just as his nominating campaign has been unlike anything we've seen. I suspect his general election campaign will be unlike anything we've ever seen.
Really interesting. So then you do think he could beat Hillary, Trump?
Oh, sure. I think Hillary is as flawed a candidate, assuming she doesn't get indicted, and all she has to do is carry the 2,100 secret and confidential emails and the Clinton Foundation and the various other scandals. So that's all she has to do. She is just like this week when she said we didn't lose anybody in Libya, and somebody had to say, do you remember Benghazi? And she just can't help herself getting in verbal trouble.
Yeah. Newt, good to talk with you as always. Thanks so much.
Good with you.
We'll see you soon. Newt Gingrich there. Coming up.